What's up people, welcome back to Rebranding Safety. Rebranding Safety is a YouTube channel and podcast translating health and safety to help you save lives and save money. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss another episode. Today we're talking about health and safety culture, or as I like to call it, culture. It's a phrase that's bandied around a lot in business, especially in the wider, bigger corporate businesses, where we talk about, we need to fix our culture and we need a good culture, etc, etc. But actually, we don't really get into the minutiae and the tangible kind of actionable steps that we can take. So in today's video, I'm going to cover what I believe to be the most important things that you can take away and start working on to actually get a good culture in your business. Oh, hello. Okay, so tip number one is it's not a health and safety culture, it's a business culture. We need to stop thinking of health and safety like an add-on, like something that's separate from everything else. We could go so far to talk about there not being a health and safety department, there being just health and safety, just something we do. And that's what we need to kind of go towards, that kind of mindset of it not being an add-on and it just being part of what we do, part of every conversation. So it's not health and safety culture, it's a business culture. Tip number two, a good business culture is not something you can buy and something you can get overnight. So it's really important that we understand that yes, we can go get consultants and specialists to help us and they will bring some value, but it's not something that you go out, you buy a consultant, they come in and go, there you go, boom. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of planning and it's not something you're going to see results straight away. But it's important you get into your head, you can't buy it and it won't change overnight. Tip number three is engagement and involvement. And this for me is probably one of the most important things. And if you're listening to the podcast, you'd have heard me say it time and time again. You've heard all of our guests say it as well. It's something we're not very good at. We might do it bits here and bits there, but we really need to just think, who is potentially affected by this? Let's get them in the room. We shouldn't be making decisions about people where they're not represented. If you're making a decision on a risk assessment or a procedure or anything for the machine operators, you should have at least one or two of those machine operators in the room, not the manager of that department, not the team leader of that department. They should be in there as well, but you've got to have a couple of the people that are doing the do in the room. That builds ownership, it builds autonomy, and then eventually it will build trust and influence. And it's so important you engage and involve your staff. They know a lot of stuff that you don't know, and 9 times out of 10 I find out that when we talk to the shop floor, there's some awesome ideas out there that we would have never come up with in a boardroom. So engage and involve your staff. Power to the people. Tip number 4, positive reinforcement. Now, I've said in the podcast a few times that we should start treating people like I treat my dog. That's because when my dog does something, he gets loads of positive reinforcement. Yeah, in business, we don't really do that. We spoke about it in the manual handling podcast where we had Stevie on, and we talk about health and safety professionals going around the business, or even managers going around the business and just pointing out what you're doing wrong. You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. Why don't we go around and just start saying when people are doing things right, high-fiving them, let's get our inner Americans out of us and go around and be like, yeah, boom, good job. If we could do some more positive enforcement, what an amazing place it would be. It's something I picked up on a few years ago when I used to work in a factory that was renowned for being one of the better paid factories in the town. But yet everybody there still complained about a few things. Complained about how they don't get hampers at Christmas anymore. They complained that we haven't had a Christmas party in a fair few years. They complained that they don't have the manager come round anymore and know them and ask about their family. But yet they were paid the most in a town compared to the equivalent jobs. It's because salary is expected. The old saying is good as expected and bad you're going to get told off, or whatever the saying was. Well, the flip is the same for you. The salary is expected. So positive reinforcement is only the extras on top of that. Those little, yes, well done, you've done a great job, or awesome, thank you. Or you can go so far as add bonuses on or do whatever. But it's so important you remember that the salary is expected, and positive reinforcement could really change your business. So let's kind of put that into context then. If you think about you're working up to the Christmas period, everyone starts to get in a holiday mode, but everyone knows they're going to get a £100 hamper or whatever it's going to cost at the end of the Christmas period. That can have such a positive impact on somebody, and it just changes their mindset that they want to work for you because they know they're going to get that hamper. You know, my dog wants to sit when I tell him to sit because he knows he's going to get a treat. It's that kind of thing. You know, if you're going to get a hamper at Christmas, you don't have to go and buy the turkey if it had turkey in it, or the ham. You know, it's one less thing to do, isn't it? Because your boss has got your back. What an awesome feeling that would be, and what an awesome place to work. Okay, so tip number 5 is what I like to call Marcus's Law. It's a guy I used to work with who was an operator on a machine, one of our best operators actually, and he had an incident, I can't remember what it was, had an incident, and the young naive joker in me said, oh, can I expect a claim off of you now? Because we had a bit of a claim culture in that business, unfortunately. And his statement kind of knocked me back as a young professional. It stuck in my head for a long time, and that basically was, why would I want to claim, James? I love working here, I don't want to ruin what I've got. Now, I'm going to caveat that to a point and say claiming is there for a reason, and we should claim where it's reasonable, and it shouldn't ruin your working relationship. However, it was a really interesting point when we kind of continued the conversation on that what this operator had was a high level of competence. Why? Because he really enjoyed the machine that he was working on. He enjoyed the process so much that he actually built a mini version in his own garage. So he really enjoyed what he was doing. He had an awesome relationship with his manager, and he really enjoyed just coming to work. Why? Because for him, the whole environment was a nice place to work. He enjoyed the machine, he enjoyed his teams, he got on with everyone, he got on with the health and safety team, he got on with all the supporting people. He loved the machine. It was a nice place to work. Now, if you go and listen to the interview that I did on a podcast with Jason Anker, that's what he talks about. It's creating a nice place to work. Because if we create a nice place to work, everything else just follows. It gets in line because we want to be there. We want to work safe. We want to work for the leaders. Also, it's kind of worth noting that if I really like the business I want to work for, I might not want to sue them. So remember the caveat. I said you should sue, you should go through civil litigation. It's there for the right reason. And what it's there for is people that really hurt themselves. But what we had in that business was PR Assurers just kind of whipping the money out, and it created a really negative environment. But imagine if we created an environment where I just wanted to work for you, where I wanted to be there. Suing you would probably be the last thing on my list. So how do we get to that point? Well, we build relationships, which brings me to a really interesting interview I did on a podcast with Richard Kennard, where we talked about how to sell safety. Now, Richard is a salesman. He's not a health and safety professional. I was really interested to talk to him and really listen to what he was saying when I was asking him, well, how do you sell stuff? And it's not kind of this Wolf of Wall Street scenario that we all think it is. It was about relationship building. And what he talks about is that kind of just being a person that his customers liked. And then you saying, just in case you ever need us, I do sell health and safety services. Well, he was the first person that come to mind because he had a good relationship with them. So there's some good skills in there that you can kind of take away and use to build a relationship with your team. Granted, you may not be trying to sell safety yet, but at some point you are going to have to sell a risk assessment or policy or a procedure to your teams. And if you have a good relationship with those teams before you get to that point, it's going to be a walk in the park. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, hit like. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. So my big tip is go and learn more. And my two favourite sources are reading and watching. So I've got a couple of specific health and safety books, and then a couple of things that are not specifically health and safety. So Anything by Sidney Dekker. This is a good book I'm reading currently at the moment. So you can see I'm like quarter of a way through. All about human error. It's very, very interesting, very good for instant investigation, hindsight and things like that. It's a great book. Another health and safety one, or two books to be precise, are books that I've done reviews on the channel, so go check out those videos. But Andrew Sharman's Accidents to Zero, which is a culture book really, and so is Mind Your Own Business, which is a power partnership of Dame Judith Hackett and Andrew Sharman. So check these two books out as well, or an Audible or anything like that. And then finally, Anything by Simon Sinek. This is a great book but any of his YouTube stuff, it's just awesome. Or he talks all about leadership, and Find Your Why or Start With Why is probably one of his most famous TED Talks as well. So the other thing is Gary Vaynerchuk, as he says it, or Gary V. You're thinking, well, we're going to watch someone that talks about investment and business and stuff like that. Well, actually, a lot of the stuff Gary covers really just really fits with culture and making it a nice place to work and actually just good business, which essentially is what we're talking about here. So YouTube, Simon Sinek, Andrew Sharman, Gary V. Read a couple of their books. Hope you found this interesting, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Safe.